Like to call the April 5th.
No, they still would, so
PSA
we
for
would
the
put that on.
meeting to order
It's kind of like.
at 9 o'clock. And with that, Rochelle, can you please do roll call?
Director Clement,
Yeah, I'm here, damn it.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Present.
Director Hansford. Yeah. And President.
Here. Please join me for the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yeah. I've got a script, so I can.
Yeah, okay, good.
With that, this time is reserved for public comments. Do we have any members of the public that would wish to comment? Time would be limited to 5 minutes. If so. Do we have any online?
No.
Okay. With that, let's go ahead and move on. No written comments as well, Michelle. Okay. Now we want to review and adopt the agenda. Do any directors wish to adjust or remove any items on the agenda before adoption or approval? And approval. Move approval of the agenda.
Second.
Okay. And I believe we have to do a roll call. Is that correct?
Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Hansford.
Yes. Next, we move on to Professional Achievements Awards. And we have them.
I will be filling in for Vicky.
Vicky's not here, so.
Vicky is not here.
Okay.
No. So we have 2 recognitions for 10 years of service here at the agency. They are both operators, which would explain why they are not sitting here right now, because operators have some wonky schedules sometimes. So one of them, Tyler, is actually on vacation, and Troy is on shift. So he will be here later tonight. But I do want to acknowledge both of these individuals. They're both really strong assets for the agency. They have been working these shifts for the entire 10 years they've been here. And Troy was just recently promoted to senior operator, which was a big thing for us. And, we just really appreciate both of them. And 10 years is a long time. We value that level of commitment from our staff. So we just want to acknowledge them.
Great, thank you very much. With that, we can move on to the consent agenda. Looking to review and approve the special board meeting minutes from March 9th, 2026, and the regular board meeting minutes from March 18th, 2026.
We actually don't have, it's only, so yeah,
Yes.
there's no warrants.
Yeah, there's nothing done.
Yeah.
And the reason there is no general fund warrant is because the finance committee. Okay. So we'll get that next month.
Yes.
You'll get 2 next month.
Right.
Double duty work.
So, okay. With that, I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Director Clement,
Yes.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins,
Yes.
Director Hansford, and President Wilson.
Yes.
I think that's it.
Perfect. And now I believe we get into some of the meat of the meeting.
We do indeed.
Are we officially retiring NRIP?
I mean,
Yes. I'm sorry.
we like to go around just to bother Liz a little bit, so you might hear it still. But we have, we've undergone one of the major aspects of the scope that were originally approved for this project, which is public outreach engagement. We are ready to go live with this process, so I'm going to give the board a bit of a breakdown on where we're at, what plans are already in place, and what the actual strategy is going to look like. It's really exciting already. You can see here, a lot of sweat and tears behind that there logo you're seeing. We have a very unique logo at TTSA in that it is the original logo. It appears on documents before this was a treatment facility. And it has some level of mythology behind its source. We think maybe a prior employee or a prior employee's family member may have drawn it. So we like it. We're going to keep it, but we like to incorporate it into a little bit of a modernization of that. So the project has the logo. It has aspects of our agency logo built into it. So background on this, right? The nutrient removal alternatives process evaluation study, which was a mouthful. We did that in March of 2025. That was a big process where we evaluated the alternatives to rehabbing the facility as laid out in the master plan. That we ended up with the decision to move forward with an MBR technology and substantial restructuring of the facility. In 2025, we engaged with Corollo, or in October of last year, we engaged with Corollo to finish the design out. Part of that is the public outreach configuration and strategy, and website development, those kinds of things that we're going to discuss today. Financing strategies, there's a lot of stuff that's built into that project. So this is, again, the portion related to the outreach campaign, and we're ready to roll it out to the public now. So the goals we have for this is we want to make sure that the customers, the businesses, those impacted stakeholder groups, member agencies, community organizations, towns, townships, future towns potentially, they all recognize and understand the importance of the project. We are at a point, I think, right now in our culture around the area that a pretty high percentage of people know nothing about us, what we do, how important it is, what would happen if we don't do it. So we're going to try and correct that. And we're going to use this project as the spearhead for doing that. And again, we want to make sure that people understand the benefits of what we do and the benefits of this project helping us to ensure that we will continue to be able to do it well for the next generation or two. We want to build public support. That's really important because if the project doesn't have the backing of the public or the electeds, then it's going to be us rolling a ball up the hill. And we don't want that. We want to have partners in this. And spoiler alert, I've already talked to several of the local related stakeholders, and everyone is really, really interested. They think this is a good project. They think this is the right direction to go. And so it's just a matter of keeping that level of engagement because it's going to be a long process. We want to make sure to keep people excited. We want to make sure to keep people enthusiastic about it, and where necessary, keep it kind of on the forefront of the local discussion. So we want to increase the public understanding of the importance. I think that, there's a lot of focus on STEM in schools these days. We have a lot of opportunities to go out and talk about what we do, how we do it, and how important it is that we're protecting the water quality. We're going to continue to do that. And then again, the board has mentioned this came up during our strategic planning. We need to make sure that we maintain an emphasis on the fact that we've been doing this over here quietly, maybe too quietly sometimes, but we've been doing this over here quietly for decades, and we've been doing a great job at it. And the Truckee River and Martis Creek and the entire region are better off for it. So we want to make sure that we kind of continue that narrative, make sure that people understand, there's a lot of people over here. Something I've talked a lot with the management team is they really care. This is something that the management team and myself and all the employees here at TTSA really care about. And this is like, when you go out, like we're going to go to Earth Day and we're going to talk about the facility and then talk about the project. When you go out and you get someone, you're talking to them, and the level of engagement, two directions, it's really great. People are excited. The staff are excited. They don't even realize how excited they are about how cool their job is. So it's important to kind of make sure we stick to that. So there's a lot of components to the public outreach. There's going to be the obvious public engagement. So we have public meetings and workshops. We have a schedule for that. That will all be available on the website. I'll give you a little sneak peek at some of the aspects of the website. I believe we can make that domain, the address available for you if you want to visit the website and watch it as we expand on it and develop it. So we're going to have workshops that are geared towards information. We're gonna have workshops that are geared a little bit more towards stakeholder engagement, where there might be some back and forth discussion, where there might be some idea generating. We're gonna meet at least once on the lake side a year and at least once on the Truckee side a year, so that we give opportunity to have the forum for people to hear and provide comment, and we can kind of incorporate those things. We're gonna have, probably yours truly is gonna be involved in a lot of community speaking engagements. It's okay, I know you probably know this about me already, I don't mind, I kind of like it. So, but things like the Rotary Clubs, Good Morning Truckee, PUDs, those are, it's amazing how, willing the agencies around here are and press are and media to kind of get engaged with this. So we're gonna take that, and then there will be opportunities for, one-on-one meetings with, maybe some electeds and maybe some other GMs and that kind of stuff. So that's kind of a big component of it. We've got some of it's already developed in that we have a good tent, we have good materials, we got good swag. Like I said, we're gonna go to, Earth Day, in 2 weeks, week and a half, and that's a really high impact event. So we're also gonna incorporate some plant tours. People come here and they're almost universally excited and interested. It's really cool. So we're gonna kind of expand that a little bit, probably have something on the schedule so we can regularly get people. Right now, it's more geared towards schools and maybe some special requests. Kind of would like to get a little bit more of a system put together for an open invite, and get on a list and come and do the tour a few times a year. So stakeholders, coordinating with stakeholders, not just informing stakeholders, is going to be an important aspect of this, because we want to make sure that, we're not out there telling people, we need you to say this party line, we need you to say this thing. We want to engage with them and coordinate with them in a way that they understand well enough what we're doing and why we're doing it, that if someone asks them, they could give a pretty close approximation of what we've answered. So that's going to take a lot of constant coordination. The project support team meetings, you may have heard like a technical advisory committees sometimes on projects. This is our version of kind of a technical advisory committee, a little bit hybridized. We're gonna look for, maybe a little bit more PIO type individuals, and maybe some project experts, and maybe from the different stakeholder agencies. And hopefully have really good constructive dialogues about the project. And again, that's an opportunity for them to learn about the project, to receive updates, to give us questions, and it's a good opportunity for us to gauge how well this process is working. If we're getting the same question over and over and over, we're failing to communicate in some way. So we'll kind of identify those high value questions that we can maybe provide a little bit more proactive information on those things. And and like I said, people, the dollar figure is going to be a big one. People are going to they're going to come out and say, oh, that's a $2 trillion project. It's like, yeah, okay, humorous. I appreciate that, but there is an accurate number we can give you, so we want to make sure those kinds of things make their way out into the community and dive in on yes, we have a strategy, and we're very transparent about what our strategy is, and you have an opportunity to come and discuss that strategy with us, financial, project, otherwise. So we want to keep that door open effectively, and it's a shared information, it's a bi-directional thing. So we're also going to have tons of digital and online communication there. Go to the website. So we will have a project website. The website is an evolving thing, but as it stands, the framework is essentially you can go to the website, and if you are moderately curious and you're just like, what is this? Where is this? You can look at the splash page, get what you need. But if you're kind of like, wow, this is really interesting, I want to dig a little deeper, you can dig into project timelines, into project documentation, into agency policies, into board meeting notes, all the stuff that anybody that might want to dig a little bit. It's all public information. We want to make sure it's accessible, but it's kind of a tiered approach where you can make it as granular as you want it, or you can just do the splash and wow, that's a pretty picture. I love that. And maybe some percentage of people that is what they'll do. So we'll be doing some online content on social media, all the Facebook next door, all those kinds of things. Hopefully some outreach campaigns there. We'll be doing some advertising here and there where necessary, especially when it comes to announcing public meetings. We want to make sure that people know the public meetings are coming. And hopefully I can kind of incorporate that into some of my outreach, the traveling show. And then we'll have some direct email communications and, this is not online, but there will be a better incorporation of the, newsletters as well. So hopefully we'll just duplicate that, and then we only have to do the effort once, and one's a paper format for those that aren't as digital, and one is the digital version for those that prefer that. So, we'll kind of get an email list of those that are interested in being on a regular notification for information. And then again, media and dignitary, this is important, especially as it relates to our funding strategy. You may have seen TCPUD. Congratulations to TCPUD on receiving some really great grant money for a really important project. We would like to be in that same photo 3 or 4 years from now. So part of that is going to involve making and keeping good connections with local dignitaries, local elected officials at the state level. So we're going to be creating some more outreach for that process. And then, of course, we're going to be working with the press to get good regular press releases out. Probably a lot of website stuff. I know there is some print out there still, but we'll get all the heavy, the high level stuff. So that's kind of the summary of the components. There's tons of subcategories within each of the components, and we could go on, and we will, trust me. Here's a little bit of a splash of our website. We were gonna do a video that kind of walked a little bit through it, or we were gonna cut it off and direct through, but yeah, there was pitfalls associated. So we're just gonna look at some screenshots. I will give you a link to the website if you want to kind of go on there and check it out. But this is our main splash page. Again, it's I think it's kind of the trend. You know, if you look at web pages from 1998, the trend was information everywhere, right? And we've kind of gotten refined over the last 30 years, and now import the stuff first. And so we're going to have, who we are, what we're doing. This is where you kind of start to get a little bit more into the details. So each of these things are clickable. So there's a Learn More tab that has information about the study. It has information about the rate studies. It has information about how we got here. There's a timeline section you can go to. There's a way you can sign up for the newsletters and being on the email list. And then, of course, this is something we're going to drive home regularly, which is what are the benefits of the project. So that's going to be continuous. And here's a little kind of a snapshot of the timeline. This is scrollable, and it's also clickable, so you can get more details if you want from that. And again, our logo, we're going to see more and more of that logo. And then again, here's the link to fact sheets, budget documents, which I think is important that we acknowledge. You know, we are doing this in a financially sound way. We want to have access to that. We don't want to hide those documents. So, and then reports and studies, if someone is so inclined, they can go and they can read the initial study. It's 700 pages. Is that accurate, Scott? But they're welcome to, it's there. It might behoove us to create an executive summary or something like that, but we're kind of playing these things out a little bit. I believe. So next steps, we're going to start initiating some public meetings. I've already scheduled a meeting for April 22nd. We thought, here we are releasing the project outreach details to the board. Board gets first cut. Next cut is member agencies. So we're going to have a meeting on the 22nd next week to do basically a probably substantially deeper dive than this. Opportunity for questions to get answered, opportunity for preferred narratives, for opportunity for all of the ways that we hope to work with the member agencies in the future, and the ways that they will benefit and their regular benefit from the project. So
Excuse me, so
Yeah.
the meeting next week is with other agencies?
member agencies.
Member agencies?
Yes.
So will they come here or, okay,
Yep, I gave the invitation to all the GMs, but I mentioned they're fully welcome to forward the invitation to whomever on their staff they would like to show up. I have gotten about 15 responses from other staff, so we're gonna have a good room of people. So I think, that's a good opportunity to get a little bit more detail, provide a little bit more confidence, hopefully. And show them a little bit, because I think, if you're not paying attention to every board meeting and every workshop and all those things, it's easy to just kind of not understand how much detail has gone into where we're at. So hopefully I'll give them an opportunity to do that. And then as of now, the website is live. We're gonna launch that. We're gonna broadcast that. A link to the project is already available on our website. So if you go on the projects, you can get there. Our hope is that we can just provide this as a quick, maybe a QR on something that we hand out at public events, where they can go directly to the project website. And the two websites are intermarried. So if you go to the project website and you click on the schedule or the calendar tab, it takes you to our agency calendar, which will have board meetings, workshops, all the things that are already. So we're gonna coordinate with our regional partners, which is gonna be, now you're starting to incorporate the airport, you're starting to incorporate the PUDs that aren't member agencies, you're starting to incorporate the counties. So we're gonna expand that and, have another meeting probably that's another couple of weeks after that. And just kind of kick it off and identify a schedule. As we provide the strategic plan in its complete form next month, you'll get a better picture on how we intend to keep some of these informational type items going on a regular basis and calendarizing them and making sure that they're important. And then we're gonna start releasing some press materials. We've already gotten a few contacts with some of the local press outlets. They're already asking, they're already chomping at the bit of information, so we're gonna get them some information promptly and get that out. There was I had an opportunity to provide some information to, I think it was maybe 6 months ago, 5 months ago on some other issues, and they were able to publish that, and it worked out really well. So we've already got a pretty good dynamic going with them. I think that we'll have a good kickoff, and then the key will be maintaining momentum and making sure that we continue to expand that. And then we're gonna start those facility tours and stakeholder reviews. So a lot of that's gonna be digital in email format. The webpage is only as good as the number of people that view it. So we will be keeping track of page views. There's a lot of statistics you can see on the page. You can see how long they spent, how many times they clicked, what portions of the page they went into, level of engagement effectively, maybe a high percent, or hey, I spent 15 seconds and I left. I don't know. But we will know that information until we can then kind of start to form a little bit, not only updates and notifications to the website, but also updates and notifications to the company.
And when does this go on our website?
It is now
What's it?
under projects. Not yet. I thought it was going live this morning.
I thought it was also, but I'm communicating with IT right now.
Thank you, Liz.
Okay.
It should be before the end of the day.
The website is live, you just can't get to it from our website, you can just
Gotcha.
put in that domain.
Yeah.
You should be able to.
Okay, will there be like a hyperlink or whatever they?
You could click the button on the screen and it will take you to the project site from our website by the end of the day.
Okay.
Yes, great. Promises.
Commitments from Luke.
Yep. And then we've got several variations of how we're gonna be using the logo. That's just kind of the copy type stuff. Do you have any questions for me?
Probably less a question, more of a comment. So you alluded to possibility for state and or federal money. That tracking that stuff down can be its own animal and project.
Yep.
So I would suggest, thinking about that in terms of whether that is so like at Tahoe City PUD, we've got a person and she spends about half of her time doing that kind of stuff, building relationships with political types at the state level, building relationships with political types at the federal level. So that when there may be opportunities to request funding, that relationship's in place. And we've also got lobbyists that I think, quite frankly, the lobbyists have been less effective recently than the internal staff person have been. So I just suggest, think about that, and maybe, it sounds like maybe you have already.
Yeah, again, Corollo's helping us with our financial strategy for this and evolving. But one of the things that we have already requested from them is when they identify a potential funding source, to give us an estimated level of effort in order to get that funding source so that we kind of make cost benefit analyses on whether it's worth going for that money.
Yeah.
So I think the temptation is that politically, trying to go for any dollar feels valuable, but there is a cost associated.
Yeah, but I think what I'm saying is all the existing staff here are busy, right? So, and there's kind of one level of pursuing state federal funding, which is looking at what programs are already out there that you can tap into and then evaluating which ones you can maybe get favorably funded for or not. And there's almost like that next level where you're not creating your own funding, but you're in line to maybe get congressional earmarks at the federal level or earmarks at the state level.
Yeah.
Which is a different animal. It's not like there's an existing
Correct.
off the shelf grant program you're trying to work into. You're trying to build relationships to create that one-off funding stream, kind of outside of the normal process. And, normally I'm a little skeptical of that kind of stuff, but with a $300 million project, it wouldn't take that much to see that money, paid back in terms of putting additional resource into that. So I just suggest that we give that thought.
Definitely. What are we assuming right now? 3 million in appropriations?
Yes.
So our strategy right now, we're assuming at some point in the interim period, we identify $3 million of that type of money. We're hopeful. That's not a large figure when it compares to the overall project cost, but we are hopeful to hopefully cut some of that down. And you're correct about the appropriations. It's very politically sensitive too, because that money's available some years, not other years. And there's some stuff going on currently with the boundaries for representation in state. So
Yeah.
the impact, who are you really talking to kinds of things.
Right. And I'm not sure if like North Tahoe PD or ESD or any of the other member agencies have those types of people, but I'm sure, like if you wanted to get with Sean Barclay, the GM at Tahoe City and Kim Boyd and talk with them about, what the types of things are that she's doing, that have resulted in some of that funding coming in. So then you can evaluate whether that's worthwhile for you trying to do that. And it could be another person working here realistically. If we collectively thought that was a good idea to pursue.
And ultimately, if the numbers work out, it's worth it. Then it's worth it.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, definitely. I've talked to Sean frequently, so I'll bring that up next time.
You might talk to both Brad and Brian, or Justin, because Justin are both good resources.
Yeah.
So, and Dan, you brought up a good point, because you were going through your litany of things. One word kept coming into my mind, Dan. And do we have the staffing to really participate at the level that we need to? Understanding that Corollo's doing a lot of work for us.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
We're learning that right now. I think it's fair to assume I'm taking on the majority of that burden at this point. We get a lot of help from the management team. But we don't have any line level staff dedicated to that right now. Right now, our public outreach, we have a handful of people that are available to participate. And they come out and, help us out in a booth or something like that. But there's been a lot of talk about improving the structure of that and maybe providing some training for the staff so that, like this upcoming Earth Day, I won't be available. And Liz is going to be kind of the face of TTSA, and she's like, can you tell me some cool science stuff we can share? And
I
it's
got the math part down.
like- Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's a week from.
Science.
A week from Saturday.
Come on out and
Up
visit.
at Palisades, yeah.
I'm gonna be hiking in Joshua. Tree.
You're always somewhere. Some.
But I'll be there in spirit.
Okay, you got it.
I think it's critical that we think about that, and I applaud that you're taking on a lot of the outreach yourself. But you got a big job with other things as well.
Here and there, yeah.
You know, and one of the questions I wrote down is, what type of things can the board do to support with outreach? Have you given that thought?
I have, yeah, and again, this is like, I don't want to spoil next month's board meeting, but when we give you the strategic plan, one of the things that the board universally wanted is if we would, or accelerated, or, you know, some kind of attention to communication. So a lot of these things you're talking about are getting addressed in the strategic plan. So yes, we have put thought into that and what that will look like. And, you know, we've got, Celeste has been awesome in picking up a lot of the work for community involvement. She has been coordinating, you know, she signs up for stuff, she's going and finding swag and stuff like that. And thankfully that fits well into her job. We do need to sit down and identify, is this something that, you know, one person can really continue to do, assuming we're gonna expand in the way that I just told you we are. So, yeah, that's a very real concern.
And the last comment I want to make on this is, I think as we're moving forward with this project, communication is going to be great. I mean, just yesterday, as I told you on this, somebody came up to me and said, well, how supportive, you know, of the project going on. I was like, I looked at them, I was like, well, what's going on? I go, where you got that? I said, well, I told them I'm afraid. You know, yeah, and I think that it's critical that we're aware of that, and from the board members that will be getting at these questions, that we're able to answer in a really truthful, honest way. And from what I'm seeing, you're laying the groundwork, so we will have that knowledge.
Yeah,
It'll be real simple to say.
again, spoiler alert, we are planning some workshops for the board where there's an opportunity to get, you know, this is a common question we have. This is a good way to answer it. We can talk through that, but we will most certainly be going out of our way to give you all the information you need to answer those questions.
Yeah, something that can be handy is for staff to prepare like a little fact sheet
There you go.
for the board, you know, so that when you get the phone call, like, there's a sheet,
Yeah,
and you can really speak to intelligence.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that can be helpful. I have a little bit of feedback on it. First, I love the logo.
Great.
Very cool. I
Okay.
love how it incorporated existing. That's really nice. This is definitely a marathon, right? This is gonna go on for a long time, so repetition is fine. Like, don't feel like you have to be, reinventing things from one year to the next. I would be, just nomenclature, like community workshops. I would just call them informational, because we're not looking for input on how to do this. We're gonna let them know how we're gonna do this.
correct.
But it's really about information. So.
Yeah.
And then the one other thing I thought of was our downstream partners, in effect, right? To let them know what's going on, and they'll be thrilled to
They
hear
will.
about this.
They will.
So just making sure that they're kept in the loop as well. Yeah, and then I'm kind of curious, I don't need to know today, like who you've identified as stakeholders, I would be curious to see that list when you're ready.
Yeah.
Have that, but it was good, I think good strategy.
It's an extensive list. What was it, maybe 45?
Yes.
It was substantial, and it took quite a good paring down, and oh yeah, we forgot this one, and it was an effort, so yeah, it's extensive.
And thank you, Celeste, for the extra work you're doing. It's greatly appreciated and really important.
Anything else? Dan? Or Dale, I'm sorry. Citizen?
Very good.
I'm good, man.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
This is still me. Why don't I stand here?
Okay.
Okay, so you might recall a handful of months ago, the board was asking nominated for LAFCO for Placer County. The board nominated Judy Freeman. We are now at the point where we need to make a vote. There are 3 candidates. The board packet included candidate statements from each. And so I'm just here to facilitate, bring it to the board and say, how would you like us to report to Placer LAFCO on the board's vote?
I make a motion that we vote for Jimmy Friedman for the LAFCO Special District Board seat. Second.
With that, I think we can roll call.
Director Clement,
In favor.
Director Cox,
Yes.
Director Wilkins.
Yeah.
Hansberg, yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so she filled out his term, now she's up for full time.
Michael.
Board of Directors, Michael Peak, Operations Department Manager. The Operations Department report for the month. We met all our plant waste discharge requirements, which is the important thing, or one important thing. Just a couple of highlights. We have initiated some removal. We started a while back with sulfuric acid. Now we're moved on to sodium hypochlorite, or sodium hydroxide. Inventory that we had from some old processes that we're trying to work through the process. We're using it for alkalinity addition instead of some lime that we usually use to remediate that, and then we'll be able to clean out the tanks. We met with Lahontan representative to discuss the ongoing WDR revision process. And we had a presentation with Corolla Engineering. And we have since met again and gone over some of we've gotten a rough draft of the WDR and we're allowed to give some of our comments and stuff. And we're working on that to move forward. So that's an ongoing thing with the lobby. And then we completed some painting projects in the primary pump station in the digester buildings. The operations department did see our flow numbers and our limits. Next slide, please. Cheers. This is just one of the little projects that the operations took on. They just went in and touched up and cleaned up some of these pumps that were been neglected for a while for paint and just kind of make them look nice. So when people are doing tours through the plant stuff, it's a nice look in the areas. Any questions for the operations department?
Just that the WDR, that permit is really a very big deal for us.
Yes,
How is that conversation going?
I'd say it's been going very well. It looks that it still has a little ways to go before it goes to their board for the final. And then there's a public comment hearing a portion of that. And they also have to, once we have all our comments back and they get the rough draft done, and it has to go to the, so their upper heads of their departments to review to make sure that they didn't miss anything. But so far, it looks like it's cleaning it up
Okay, so
quite well. It's taken that 2002 revision that had a lot of information from the old plant that was in there, and that's all been removed. And so it'll be a lot cleaner document. And but it looks like there's a few things that were added and a few things that were changed for sampling. So far, at least that's the recommendation from Lahontan moving forward.
so no big changes on the limits and for the
No.
design addition. Fine, everything.
As of right now, there's been no recommended large changes in our limits for surface water or groundwater.
Dale, any questions?
None. Looking good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Walsh manager. All right, so for the month of March, we continue to provide project support for the digestion improvements project. I see nutrient removal project up there. I guess I do need to rename that the Clean Water Revitalization Project because we get used to that name, so I'll make sure that's on the next board meeting. We're continuing on the IT/OT domain controller split. That's a big project for us. It's been going on for quite a while. We are nearing the end of it, thankfully, so that'll be done soon. Network upgrade project is kicking off. I'm sure you'll hear Scott talk about that just a little bit, but that's an effort for us to go in and get rid of some of our old fiber optics throughout the plant and change out to the newer upgraded single mode fiber. So that is kicking off, and we've got some meetings scheduled here this month. So plant maintenance activities, I'm sure you'll see a lot of discussions about pumps, a lot of pump rebuilds, replacements, things like that, rather than getting into each individual pump here. But those are fairly large projects as we do those. We are changing out more LEDs throughout the plant as we find other areas that have been missed. We're mostly smaller areas now. The biggest areas have already been hit. So trying to get that wrapped up. We're continuing to do the electric heater replacements. We got some more of those done. That's in anticipation of the digester improvements projects. We're changing those over to electric so we can get those off of that steam loop. So, and the big one for the month was we had a failure on our backup generator. The cooling bundle had some problems. It was no longer transferring heat efficiently. It was still operable, but we pulled it out and replaced it just before it actually failed. So, but it was built up pretty bad and had been in there for quite some time. So that will be replaced. Obviously, that whole generator is going away with the new clean water revitalization project. So I was saying that. Let's see, next page, please. All right, you'll notice we still have the same unfilled positions, two of which we're not actively hiring for at the moment. The SCADA specialist, we are still trying everything we can to get that position filled sooner than later, but we're having some struggles. We've performed some interviews. We even got so far as second interviews, but unfortunately, we were unable to locate a good candidate. So we're moving on. So hopefully more to come. Hopefully we'll have some news soon here on that one. Work orders, we knocked out quite a few throughout the month. We're up to 197. We're staying pretty flat on the pending work orders for the month, so no major changes there. We continue to add more and more PMs all the time, so the numbers will change. We do anticipate seeing more of those go up. And hopefully some of the correctives go down, so inversely. All right, we got a few fun pictures there. There's Tobin doing some work on those building 53 heaters. We got Chewy or Jesus Arate working on digester 33 transfer pump rebuild. That's a picture of the heat exchanger tubes there. You can see how built up they are. Because we run R2 water through there, that's chlorinated effluent through there. It's got chlorine in it. It doesn't react well with some of the dissimilar metals and things like that. So it does weird stuff in there. So fortunately, we've got a brand new one in there and a brand new cap, and we did test it. We load tested that generator, and it is operating very well. And we've got Anthony working on a pump there, and to the right there, did some control work on our septic receiving station. It's something that operations continues to use, even though we don't receive septic or RV dumps or anything like that. But we do still continue to use it, and it was long overdue to be rebuilt. So one of our newer E&I technicians went in and rebuilt that bucket. Next page, please. And that's Jason. He's in the hole there doing some of the work, and on the right-hand side there, he's in his arc flash safety gear performing live electrical work there.
So if we're not accepting septic, that it's being used, how is it being used?
So for digester overflows, things like that, it builds up with water. Sometimes it does need to be pumped out because it does remain. I think you'd be probably best suited to talk about some of the uses that you guys actually.
Yeah, because of its location and it kind of runs downhill from the digester building itself. When we did the project in 2005, 6, 7 in that area, we added digester 33. Even though we weren't using it and all it really did was catch rainwater. We put a swell and we added some asphalt so that if the digesters, and back then we had a lot more digester foaming than we do now. So it's, you know, probably not as a necessity as it used to be. But when we did that project, we had digester foaming on a daily basis, not that it left the digesters, but we did have some times where it got into the, onto the ground, the asphalt, we had to clean it up with a Vector truck. By putting that swell in, we could actually contain the foam that if it got out of the digester by having to go to that septic receiving station, and we could pump that back into the plant without having to get a Vector truck. We could just hose it down in there, and it made it a lot easier when we did have an issue. We haven't had an issue in quite some time, and hopefully we won't, but it is there. It was kind of added into the project as, you know, something that we had in place that we could utilize at the time, so. And so we continue to maintain it just because it can be if we had an upset, or if we had a gas line backup or something with foam, that we could capture that and it doesn't end up on the ground and a little bit more of a mess for us to clean up than if it goes to that receiving station, so.
Unfortunately, it does capture rainwater because it is open still, so we still have to keep it up and running, and having that backup there for that purpose, just in case, it's a good thing to have.
I think maybe part of the question too is has it ever been, will it ever be available to the public to use as something we offer to our customers? Is maybe part of the conversation too.
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would say that I could probably pose that to you and, you know.
I don't think they've ever been used
Tend
for that.
to-
As far, to my knowledge, it has never been actually used for that. Why they put it in,
It's original, correct?
I think it might have been put in like 81 or 85. I don't think it was original to the plant. But at that time, maybe they considered taking septage, but they never actually, from my understanding, ever actually utilized it, so.
It opens up a lot of questions on how would we monitor it, how would we track it, having vehicles driving through the plant with other equipment, some of the, you know, hazardous communications that would be required for safety, compliance, things like that. How do we do that? So we'd have to ask a lot of questions before we put down that. That's all I have for you, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Thanks, man.
Morning, Board of Directors, Scott Delaney, Technical Services Manager, here to department report. So under engineering, we currently are advertising for a senior associate engineer, looking at anybody. That date closes, I think, Monday or weekend, so yeah, get some good applicants. On the TTSA parcel update, had a chance to coordinate with the town of Truckee. They're in the process of considering annexing some additional properties, but their timeline as it pertains to what we're looking to accomplish with ours aren't quite in line. They're quite a ways out, still working with your district. Director Wilkins, you might be aware, they're trying to build a new police facility of some sort. And so I think there will be some property with their district and annex that into the town boundaries. So that seems like it's still quite a ways out. So with that, they did give us the green light to move ahead with working with LAFCO to start our own annexation process. That would require likely a town resolution saying that, yes, we're on board with this annexation and for us to move forward with that application. So I'm currently working on filling out the application and figure out how they want to handle the resolution process for us. So, whether it needs to be an actual town council item or if it can just be part of like the consent agenda. So This is the one we received from the airport district and land exchange back a year ago. So the context there is we currently have a number of parcels located in the town boundary. This is the one parcel that's not. So it's kind of twofold. Where before we go forward with an application and a resolution, we'll prep all the necessary work and get board's authorization here, likely next month, to move forward with that. So I've got to pull together some last bits and pieces just to make sure we're all on the same page. But that would be the first step in preparing potentially lot line adjustments and a parcel subdivision with the town in order to develop a parcel that can be surplus potentially for sale to an interested party.
Currently, we have a single parcel that's partially in the town of Truckee and partially in unincorporated Nevada County, right? That acquisition.
It's fully in Nevada County currently.
Oh, okay, so we acquired that as a standalone parcel as opposed to.
Yeah.
Land. Yes.
Yeah, so all of the airport district's properties are located outside of the town boundary. And so in order to develop a 20 or 25 acre parcel for Truckee Motor PUD, if we were interested in surplusing that, currently that proposed layout, there's no feasible way to get it achievable to meet the requirements without isolating multiple portions of our parcels off its order. So in order to set it up in a way that would facilitate, per some of the previous discussions with the board, the parcel in a way, we want to work with one entity. So because the bulk of the parcels, there's 3 that would be impacted to subdivide, it makes the most sense to have them all under one jurisdictional authority for the lot line adjustments and subdivision, in this case being the town. So that's what's driving that. So I plan to come next month to the board. Issue that in the resolution of town. On the digestion improvement side, Brown and Falls working forward on that. There is a scope in the amendment. It's been kind of carried over multiple months. There's some back and forth negotiations. So aiming for May on that one. Otherwise, not too much update there. On the clean water revitalization project, I'll teach you to Paul's. So we've got DIM 5 is completed. We had a workshop with Carollo for electrical instrumentation and control facilities. Out of that, one of the big takeaways is our existing generators at the end of useful life with the current project layout location. So we are planning on putting in some new emergency generation on site with that project to support the future needs for electrical loads, as well as redoing line feed to the plant. And then forthcoming, we have DIM 6 scheduled for next week. That's site support facilities and demo plan. That's essentially yard piping around the plant. That's a lot of it is original 1970s and as well as hitting about 50-year useful life. And some of it's going to be repurposed. That's newer. But yeah, we're talking potable water lines, yard piping for 2 water or processed water, all sorts of stuff in that, as well as what facilities are planned to be demoed. And then DIM 7 and 8 are scheduled out. Those are the architectural, that'll be a fun one. And then project implementation schedule. And as far as the board goes, I know there's been interest on when can we get pulled back into it. The intent is post all of these design memo workshops is to pull all that information together for discussion. Sure, Jason. And then we did just finish out the public outreach website that Jason mentioned, applications and strategy. Moving on to network upgrades, we did, as Paul mentioned, schedule that kickoff meeting. That's slated for 2 weeks out now, I think. 28. So looking forward to get that going on the single mode fiber that I previously discussed. And then on the laboratory side, so they've also had a hand in the WDR review with ops as well as myself. There's kind of ripple effects with that. There are some proposed changes to a couple minor portions of that permit. And so with that, there's ripple effects to how the lab samples and tests to stay compliant. So our lab director was heavily involved in providing a lot of good commentary. And then on the LIMS side, they're constantly looking for ways to optimize that system. There might be also some additional requirements out of it for reporting with the new WDR that's forthcoming. So that's staying on. In a minute here, I'm going to have Kristen Trant introduce herself and talk about some tours they went on to support previously the NREP, now that Clean Water Revitalization Project. They went to a couple facilities, so she'll talk about that. And then they've been doing some support testing for some key design parameters that Corolla needs data on that we don't typically test for. And as always, they're doing continued California Department of Public Health COVID sampling On the IT side, Paul touched on this one too. IT is also involved heavily in the domain split between our business enterprise and our OT SCADA system. They've kind of gotten ongoing support outstanding on the permit portal. I have taken it as no news is good news on that one. So as we have not heard many comments, right, Liz, from the member districts, I think on Celeste's side. And no,
Correct.
so seems like everything's hunky dory there, so it's good. Sonic wall, firewall security work, this is kind of a constant battle. We have, without getting too much into it, seen some uptick in activity last month with the Iran conflict. So just staying on our toes with our support. And then there's still discussions moving forward over the next 18 minutes for Microsoft SharePoint migration. That'll probably drop off next month as far as me sharing that point over and over again until we actually have some actionable information this year. And then, yeah, we've got clip training for Microsoft product suites. They completed 34 work tickets and there's 6 in progress and 4 new. And before I turn it over to Kristen, any questions as far as the technical services update?
Not sure if it's for you or for Jason, but as I think there was a meeting a few months ago amongst the different entities that have expressed interest in acquiring property from PTSA, where you said, hey, why don't you guys get together and do a little bit of master planning? Do you know if anything has happened on that front?
Little to none.
Okay.
There have been some discussions amongst a couple of only 2 parties. Sounded like maybe they were just working together to try and make my life easier. Otherwise, I haven't really heard much.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Kristen, one of the council, so we got the chance to visit, Easterly wastewater treatment plant with Trevor from MWA. This is one of the labs we looked at. It's probably overkill for us. It's 2,000 square feet at least. But some of the takeaways that we had from this was basically the linear flow of the lab, having the standalone islands and adjustable not countertops, but shelving, stuff like that. And then we also had a good DI system where they basically had a DI room that feeds into some taps, where right now we just have basically a jug filling station so that the operators can come in and all of that. So yeah, so that lab's probably overkill for us, but definitely they're at like a 9-person lab. We're only 2 right now. So somewhere in between this lab and the next lab that you'll see, there's only a 1-person lab is kind of ideal probably for us. But yeah, this lab is really nice and it's kind of similar to what we have right now, but larger like workstations and yeah, I don't know, it's definitely nice. Nice. So these are, oh yeah, so this is one of the sample receiving rooms, which is something that we've talked about having, basically having operations be able to drop off all of our compost samples and having storage area for our samples and client samples for when we do our presence absence samples. Then on the right there is a separate micro lab, which is much bigger than what we have right now. Probably bigger than what we would need to, but also if we start bringing in river biology and a metals lab, it's going to start adding space. Right now we take over kind of operations, we don't need to over a river sampling. This was the Delta Water Supply project we went to. So they're only drinking water. So they don't have as much technical equipment as we have. And the benches were a little smaller. So our lab right now is probably twice this size. So somewhere in between like this one and the other one is kind of probably ideal for future testing that we're going to do too. So having the carts in the middle too, that's good for being able to move move stuff around, but it kind of limits our, you know, what we can do in that space, so. I think having the islands, that was much ideal, but, that's pretty much. She's.
Do we currently outsource any testing?
Yes, so we do metals. So I know there was talks about maybe potentially in the future adding that. A lot of our annual testing we do, some of it we subcontract just because it doesn't really make sense for us to get a permit to test for it. We don't do it annually. But most of the stuff we do in-house, all the DVDs we do in-house.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Good morning, Board of Directors. I'm happy to say it's the first time I've stood here during this meeting. That was a little weird to like stay over there the whole time. I will admit that.
There's the Liz energy.
There it is. It's still here. Let's share with you what the administrative department has been doing over the last month. From a risk and safety standpoint, we worked on logout, tagout training that has to do with electrical controls. Easy for me to say. You don't want people touching stuff if you're touching stuff. So they went over the procedures for logout, tagout. We're still continuing to have the conversation about confined space entry training. We made some changes to the permit or trying to make some updates, so it's an evolving and ongoing conversation. On the finance side, I'm happy to report that we had a finance committee on March 10th, very successful, as always. The biggest thing though for me is that we kick off the FY27 budget. We talked in finance committee and dabbled here at the board about what is going to be upcoming changes from the reserve policy and the fund policy approvals that you all gave. It's getting ready. So in May, you will all be able to see a preview. And the idea for budget this year is that the June delivery is that actual book instead of that book coming later on in the new fiscal year, so that we can start July 1 with a little bit more governance on our budget. I'll go move to the next one. There you go. From a billing and customer service aspect, we did 2 commercial inspections. And again, Celeste has spent an inordinate amount of her time working on public outreach. It matches with the customer service perspective of her job, and she's doing an amazing job at it. So I'll put a little plug in. Come by Earth Day and see what swag we selected. I'll also note that from a purchasing standpoint, we wrapped up the FY27 chemical bid process. You will hear during the budget conversations, and as the contracts rise to your level, we'll bring that information here. Prior, we had done a 3-year contract. We went back to do that 1-year contract. We were not seeing 3-year cost savings. It was causing 3-year confusion, if anything else. So we just went for that 1 fiscal year. And that's what we've been doing. Any questions? All right, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
Again, kind of a reiteration of a lot of stuff the managers discussed. We're always having discussions about CIP. It's amazing. We're living in something we're calling the circle of life, which is there's a season in all things. There's a season. It is not CIP season right now, but that does not stop us from wanting to start creating more CIP. So we're learning, we're getting it. And so, you know, we're kind of working through that process. I think it's healthy. Again, supported all the board of director meetings, did not have a finance committee in this month. Been attending area managers meetings, gentlemen, those are great. I'm getting to know everyone still. We had the management team version of the Trippetti Smith workshop that the board took part in last month. So we now have completed our work plan. It's being finalized. It will be published next month. So we'll get an opportunity to look at what our report card is going to look like. Again, you saw the presentation on public outreach, strategic planning. Still kind of having meetings for digestion improvements. As Scott said, a lot of those are kind of higher level meetings at this point, kind of trying to get that scope of fee amendment hammered out. So lots of conferences. Staff just last week attended CWA conference in Sacramento. Had a couple of staff that were new attend, had a staff member that had never attend. Great reports. Everyone had a really good time, got a lot of networking in, saw people they hadn't seen in a while. And it just kind of reiterates and reminds me how important from a collaborative perspective these conferences are. There's classes and there's education and there's vendors and there's people to talk to there that are might do business with, but that idea of just getting together with people in the same industry and commiserating and getting new inspiration and friendships and, you know, the amount of times in my career that I have pinged someone on a question that I met 15 years ago through a conference, it's so powerful. As we've mentioned a few times, we've got Earth Day coming up. That's probably our most impactful community outreach of the year. We will be counting the number of contacts we have this year. This is the first we've done. So we will have a report, a KPI of sorts, on how we're doing on these things. I think this one's gonna be high. And like I mentioned, strategic planning development, the document is getting finalized, so we'll have that ready for you. CSDA, I will be attending the GM Summit. CSDA is a great organization. We are gonna probably focus a lot on creating contacts and coordinating with the other member agencies in CSDA. It's a really powerful organization. I attended the GM Summit, saw every one of the other GMs from the member agencies at that summit. It was amazing. It was local, thankfully. So that was the easy one. This one's in Newport, so I'm gonna drive down to Newport. It's not amazing, but I know the facility that they're having it at is quite nice. So I think it'll be a great opportunity to kind of continue those relationships with the other GMs. Last time I attended, I saw someone that I had worked with in Southern California. He had transitioned to do a job. I had transitioned to do a job again. We didn't know that. Getting to see each other and getting, you know, talk about how things went, it was really useful. So, and again, we're just going to continue. Strategic planning is going to, we keep talking about this and talking about this. This is going to be foundational. This is going to be the things when we come to you in the future with a project, we want to spend money. We're going to have a subsection within that memo that says, this is how it supports this individual strategic initiative or initiatives. So we're going to try everything we do. We're going to tie back to that, and we're going to live in that document. And then last month, thank you so much for the TSP board for having me. It was a great opportunity to get to meet some of the board members and give them a little sneak peek on what we're doing. So that went really well. Any questions?
Dale? Questions?
No questions. Thank you for asking.
I guess this is a point for any comments from the board.
No, just as Jason said, he came to our TS meeting last month and board really appreciated it a lot. So, I think our intention is to have Jason come every now and then, not just be a one-off thing.
We got it.
Go.
Fine. Seeing no more. Meeting is adjourned.